My husband was previously married to a woman who was physically unable to have children, so they adopted my stepdaughter when she was 9 months old. I didn't meet her until she was 19, and thank God, because I don't think I would have been able to deal with her. She is incredibly spoiled. When we moved, we had to get rid of all of her childhood things because he just shoved them in a room instead of actually going through them. And she had 9 American Girl dolls, and an entire room just filled with toys. She had 2 horses growing up. He paid for her school all through her PhD, paid for her wedding, bought her a house. I have a 21-year-old daughter, and my husband is very nice to her, but he doesn't seem interested in any financial responsibility. My ex and I paid for her college, but she didn't get to go to a fancy school like your stepsister did, and he never offered to help, though he makes great money. My daughter was interested in a study abroad, but my ex couldn't afford it, and my husband didn't offer, though his daughter has a PhD in history, and he funded educational trips to Europe every summer throughout college and grad school. My sister was over the other day and made a joke about why don't I quit my job? Isn't that the point of marrying a rich man? I said maybe after daughter's name gets married, because I know he isn't going to pay for the wedding. This prompted a fight when she left, and he said he doesn't owe my daughter anything because she isn't his child. I said stepdaughter's name isn't really your child either, and he stormed out of the house. I feel like I went too far, but I'm so sick of my daughter watching her stepsister have everything handed to her. Yes, the a-hole. Oh my God, you're a huge a-hole. That is his real daughter, and your daughter isn't his responsibility. Yes, the a-hole. Just because she is adopted doesn't mean she isn't his daughter. He made that decision to adopt her and has been her father for almost 100% of her life. It doesn't say if you helped fund his daughter's horse, PhD, house, etc., or if you were even with him at the time. If you weren't with him when he paid for all that stuff, I fail to see how you can play the 2 daughters off each other. Yes, the a-hole. She may be a privileged kid, but he is absolutely her father, and no less his child because she is adopted. Hopefully your daughter got a good enough education to know how wrong it is for her mother to say that. Also, it sucks he doesn't support your daughter because he has the means, but that's not his responsibility. Yes, the a-hole, no contest. 100% you're a huge a-hole. He's not even a little in the wrong. It's all you. Better get yourself a lawyer because he might divorce your butt over this. Lord knows I would. Also, you claim that your stepdaughter is so spoiled, yet you were still trying to spoil your own daughter by expecting to pay for her wedding. Why not let your daughter stand on her own 2 feet if you're so against spoiling them? My fiancé and I are getting married in August. We wanted it to be small and focused on only having close family and friends. I have 2 stepchildren, Jake 14 and Chloe 19. They're lovely and amazing. We get along perfectly. They helped tremendously with the wedding, took part in wedding planning, and everything was going exactly as planned, except for one problem that came with the invitations. Now my husband and I have let all guests know that they could bring their partners, either if they're engaged or married, just to keep it simple. No one complained. However, days ago, Chloe mentioned that her boyfriend, Leo, was coming to pick her up and give her a ride to my wedding in his new car. I was taken aback and asked if her dad invited Leo. She asked what I meant and told her about the +1 rule and that since Leo has only been her boyfriend for 6 months, therefore it'd be unfair to make an exception for him and not the others by letting him attend. She was shocked and talked about how Leo is family and he doesn't need to have an official title. I offered that he come to a dinner party the next day, but she started yelling at me for refusing to let him come, calling me selfish, and that it's her dad's wedding too. I apologized and gave her space to calm down, but she demanded I let Leo come or she won't attend. My husband found out and was mad. He lashed out and said, "Just so you know, Chloe's known Leo for over 6 years, but only recently started dating." I said that I was clear from the beginning, and he and Chloe were making it hard for me because I already had my folks stick to the rule, and if they see Leo, they'll complain. He replied, "So what do you want them to do, get engaged tomorrow?" But this is not what I meant. He argued with me about it and told me he wants to see Chloe happy at our wedding, not to see her sad, or not to see her at all. I agreed, but then I'll have to let everyone else bring +1, which will add to the cost of food and chairs and whatnot. My husband said I was the one overcomplicating things, but I replied that he was being inconsiderate of me as his partner. We've been arguing about it ever since, and still haven't reached an agreement. The wedding is approaching, and any changes I make now will cost me extra money. I have sisters and also friends who are dating, and will most likely want to bring their boyfriends, girlfriends too. And it's hard to afford all of them. Holy crap. Yes, the a-hole. Lighten up. So she's known this guy for a long time. They're finally dating. Plus, your teen stepdaughter helped you set up and plan your wedding. And her reward is basically being told tough crap. Your fiancé wants him to come. Your fiancé is essentially giving him an invite. If anyone asks, say he is a family friend, not your stepdaughter's date. He is getting married. He can decide who he wants to invite. Sorry, but yes, the a-hole. You don't have to make exceptions for everyone if you let Chloe bring your boyfriend. It's her dad's wedding, and her comfort is more important than a random cousin getting upset with you. Yes, the a-hole. Is this seriously how you want to start off being her stepmom? After what a great kid she's been, by your own description. Wow. Have a heart-to-heart with her, apologize, invite the boyfriend, and build a family based on graciousness and generosity. Haha. I have a stepdaughter, Emma, who I never really bonded with. She really clammed up when me and my bio daughter came into the picture. She was 14 and my daughter was 11. And when I had my son, her half-brother, she wanted nothing to do with him, which I respected. Emma was the most perfectly behaved child, never acted out, and just seemed really sad all the time. I tried to include her, but she did not want that. She begged to go to boarding school, and her dad allowed it. She always wanted to spend the summer with friends, and when she went to college, she never came home on breaks. My husband paid for her education, and she had no real need to work. But she worked as a dancer making very good money, just so she could have an apartment and not have to come home on vacations. I never knew what to make of her, but at the same time, good for her. She is a very smart, independent young woman. The dancing did bother her dad, though. Mother-in-law never liked me, but she doesn't like anyone her son is with, so I didn't think much of it. Mother-in-law was close to Emma and very upset by her going to school and not wanting to come home. Emma did ask to spend some vacations with mother-in-law, but my husband said no, because mother-in-law only lived 20 minutes away, and Emma could see her either way. Emma is slowly rebuilding her relationship with her dad, though she doesn't seem very fond of me, and I'm pretty sure she hates my bio daughter. We recently had dinner with Emma, her fiancé, and mother-in-law and father-in-law. My husband made a comment about how Emma was such a perfect child and never did anything bad. And Emma opened up for the first time about how uncomfortable she was living in the house with me and my daughter, and that is why she went to boarding school. She said it was nothing personal, but she never felt like we were family and hated living there, and that she wanted to live with mother-in-law and father-in-law, but her dad refused. I never knew that. Mother-in-law had had a little to drink. She literally can't handle alcohol at all, and began to tear up. She called me a witch and a C-word, and said I ruined her family. I ruined Emma's life, and that my husband cared more about a S-toy than his daughter. My husband was furious and tore her a new one, but I asked her to leave because that was so disrespectful. I said she's not welcome back for a very long time, and I won't have that in my house. Emma ended up leaving too, and said mother-in-law shouldn't have yelled like that, but she doesn't want to be somewhere her grandmother is banned. Emma also told my husband if he couldn't work things out with mother-in-law, maybe he couldn't come to the wedding, because mother-in-law is the most important person for her to have there. Emma is back to being quiet and reserved, and my husband is sad about that. So I don't know if I overreacted by making a snap decision. I want to help my husband heal the rift with his daughter, but I really don't want mother-in-law in my house. Sounds to me like mother-in-law might have been dripping poison into Emma's ear about you. Wow, I feel sad for Emma. Your husband clearly didn't do enough to ensure home was her safe space too. Against that, what mother-in-law said is totally unacceptable, and you can't allow that. Don't worry about the wedding. You're right to hold your ground with mother-in-law. Everyone sucks here, except Emma. Emma's grandmother should not have called you those vile names, but it sounds like Emma spoke her truth, and mother-in-law had too much to drink. She's blaming the two adults who were supposed to be parents to that child for her emotional isolation. She was blaming you more than her own son, which isn't appropriate, but both you and Emma's father should have done better. If Emma had to take a job as a dancer in order to avoid having to come home, there's a hell of a lot more going on here. Also, she couldn't have been too spoiled if she was willing to do that rather than be under your roof. I feel terribly sorry for Emma. Is it your fault Emma was uncomfortable around you and your daughter? Did you give your daughter special treatment or do anything that could have hurt Emma? Maybe do some reflection on yourself and then decide what you should do. My daughter's voice is very loud, and Emma seemed unable to stand the noise. Emma is a very sad child and could not deal with my daughter bouncing around, playing, being happy. I don't know if I did anything wrong because I wanted to respect Emma. She did not want to be touched. So yeah, I gave my daughter affection and not Emma. But I didn't want to force myself on Emma. She was very independent and liked to cook her own meals and eat in her room and do everything for herself. She also spent a lot of time at mother-in-law's house where she was babied. So I kind of thought that evened things out. They currently hate each other over a man they both wanted, but that was when they were older. Emma won that one, but there's still resentment. I have a stepdaughter, Abby, who is getting married over the summer. I came into her life as an adult and there's no bad blood, but no relationship either. Abby is pretty antisocial, which is fine. Abby is extremely close to her grandparents, my mother-in-law, who has been nothing short of the mother-in-law from hell. She hates me, treated my children like they were beneath Abby, and spread all sorts of lies. I had very limited contact with her due to her blatant favoritism with the children. A year ago, she told Abby's future mother-in-law that I am R and hate her son, who is actually white, but mother-in-law apparently thinks being tan makes someone a minority. None of this is remotely true. Abby even called her out for lying, but it was humiliating nonetheless. I decided that I would not be around her again, and my husband is supportive. She now hates me for stealing her son, but I ignore her and life is good. The issue is, I don't want to go to Abby's wedding. Of course my husband should go and get her a super nice gift, but I refuse to see mother-in-law, and honestly, don't want to see the groom's mother either because I'm embarrassed. I feel like it isn't a big deal. Abby wouldn't care, and Abby has no relationship with her younger half-siblings. She hardly speaks to any of us outside of hi and bye. Her wedding would be a weekend trip on a small private island, with limited room to get away from mother-in-law, and mother-in-law enjoys causing drama. My husband is very upset and thinks I'm being selfish and ruining the experience for him. He even asked Abby to uninvite mother-in-law, without my knowledge, which of course infuriated Abby. Not the a-hole. I think you're being pretty diplomatic here. You don't have a real connection, she does with her mom, and you know stuff will go down if you're together. So bowing out is the graceful option here. Not the a-hole. Honestly, it sounds like you're doing Abby a favor by not allowing her wedding to be consumed by drama between you and mother-in-law. Your husband was out of line to ask her to uninvite her grandmother so that he could bring you. I would have more of a conversation with your husband though. If up to this point he has supported your decision to avoid the drama and not be around mother-in-law, why does he even want you to go? Not the a-hole, but I would contact Abby directly and tell her you're conflicted because you would love to attend, but you know that her grandmother will be upset if you're there. And that granny has been her granny her whole life, and as much as you want to attend, you feel like it would be selfish to upset granny, and potentially, inadvertently, set off some kind of drama. You'll look like the hero, and there won't be any drama. My sister has 2 kids. Her son is 11 and her daughter is 9. She has 3 stepkids. Her stepson is 10, stepdaughters are 9 and 7. They got married 3 years ago, and honestly, my sister and her husband ducked it up pretty badly. They were long-distance dating for 4 years and lived 2,500 miles from each other, so they decided to wait for any big moves until they were getting married. 1 month before the day came, he moved in with my sister and her kids. None of the kids had met each other or their future step-parent. The day the move-in happened, it became very clear that the kids were not super excited to go through the change, and not super happy for more people, regardless of how much their parents wanted it for them. My nephew and niece have told me that they resent the hell out of my sister and her husband for what they did. My nephew told me he hates his mom for moving her husband and stepkids in all at once, and never giving them the opportunity to know the people, or feel how they felt before it was a done deal. He even said, what if they had been jerks to them? There was no going back so close to the wedding. The kids fight with each other a lot and generally don't get along. All have resisted bonding with their respective step-parent too. My sister and her husband think the kids hate each other, and especially lately, as it has come up a lot because the kids don't even mention having step-siblings or a step-parent to new people. It bothers my sister, and she has come to me several times with her frustrations, but never wanting advice. Finally, the other day, she was doing the same, over and over and over again, because she found out her daughter had made it seem that it was just the 3 of them still, to one of her friend's parents, and the parents seemed shocked there was a stepfamily involved. And she said she doesn't get why the kids hate each other so much, and it was getting hard to listen to her talk about, especially when I had asked her to stop on more than one occasion and had cut her off before. So I decided to tell her that the kids don't actually hate each other. They're not mad at each other. They're mad at her and her husband. She was stunned and said they had no reason to be mad at them, that it must be the kids. Well, she found out by asking her kids directly that I was right, and now she's pissed. She said I had no right to interfere and judge her and make it sound like her kids hated her. Our parents told me I should have said nothing, like she always wanted, but at some point, the truth had to be brought up, right? Or should I have stayed quiet? Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. The truth is the truth, no matter how hard you wish it wasn't. Also, if she really wants to fix the problem, she needs to actually know what it is. She's just mad her kids are upset with her and looking to blame someone else. You didn't do anything wrong. Her selfishness did. Not the a-hole. Blending families can be really challenging, and your sister and her husband have botched the process every step of the way. She needed a little smack with the clue by 4, and you gave it to her. Hopefully, once she settles down, she and her husband will at least have the sense to get the whole family into counseling.